prison where superpowered criminals are locked up, but how will they ever escape? Let's find out. The movie opens with a man named Brush surrounded by a gang of thugs, one of whom even looks like a beast. These guys are all extremely dangerous and have a serious grudge against Brush. They've gathered there to take him down. Just then, a fighter named Payback shows up. He starts taking them out one by one with ruthless precision. When Payback fires his gun, two of the thugs somehow survive. Turns out they have powers that protect them from bullets. Payback then switches to hand-to-hand combat, fighting one of them head-on. The thug can handle all of Payback's hits, but Payback changes tactics and knocks him out cold with a single strike. Then another strange-looking guy attacks, but Payback drops him too fast. He walks up to Brush and says, "Don't be scared. I'm here to save you." But Brush is wrong if he thinks Payback saved him out of kindness. Payback only stopped the gangsters so he could take his own revenge. Brush had recently killed Payback's daughter, and now Payback wanted him dead. He reloads his gun and shoots Brush. Before he can escape, the police arrive and arrest him. The scene shifts, and we learn that in this world, many people possess extraordinary powers, the ability to control electricity, superhuman strength, or even cause deadly explosions. To deal with this threat, the government has built the most secure, high-tech prison ever created, designed especially to contain the most powerful and dangerous supercriminals. After being found guilty of killing between 40 and 50 people, Payback is sent to this maximum security facility for life. The prison is run by a corrupt man named Walton Devlin, who prefers to be called the overseer rather than the warden. Rumors say that he secretly kills inmates who try to escape, but when asked about it on a news channel, Devlin denies everything. According to him, the prison wasn't built to rehabilitate criminals, but to punish them. Soon, a new batch of prisoners arrives, including Payback, who already knows the reputation of many inmates there. Captain Brody, a security officer, explains that their powers are being suppressed by a device called the Power Nullifying Interface, PNI, locked around each prisoner's ankle. Because of this device, no one inside the prison can use their abilities, not because they're dangerous, but because they're different. All the inmates gather in a large hall where an officer named Morales inspects them one by one. She notices one man, Diaz, doesn't seem to have any combat powers. She laughs at him, unaware that Diaz actually has mind control abilities. Morales quickly warns him to stay alert, realizing Diaz could easily get killed among these violent, superpowered inmates. When it's Payback's turn for scanning, Morales learns that he's one of the most powerful prisoners in the entire facility. Another guard mocks Payback, saying he doesn't look as scary in person as he does on TV. But when Payback gives him a cold, deadly stare, the guard immediately backs off, making Payback chuckle. Suddenly, Morales punches Payback hard in the gut, forcing him to his knees. She wanted to show him who's really in charge. Then she makes it clear she won't tolerate any bad behavior in her prison. After that, prison officer explains the rules that every inmate must follow inside the facility. After that, all the prisoners are given their personal supplies, blankets, clothes, and basic items before being sent to their individual cells. Once everyone is locked in, Payback walks into the prison yard, where he meets another inmate named Jim. Jim turns out to be the brother of the man Payback had killed earlier. Jim has been waiting for this moment to take his revenge, and without a second thought, the two dive into a brutal fight. Payback lands several powerful punches right to Jim's face, leaving him covered in blood. Inside a control room, a prison officer watches the brawl through surveillance monitors, clearly enjoying the show. He laughs, calling them both lunatics. Meanwhile, two guards, including Morales, stand right next to Payback, but instead of stopping the fight, they just watch silently, almost amused. Frustrated by the guards' inaction, Diego, the mind control prisoner, goes to the other inmates and pleads with them to break up the fight. He shouts, "Are you really going to let Payback and Jim kill each other like this?" But Gordon, another inmate, calmly explains, the fight will only stop when one of them is close to death. The guards won't interfere before that. During the brawl, Jim hits the ground but swings his elbow straight into Payback's nose, making it bleed. Payback wipes the blood across his face in the shape of a cross, the same symbol seen on his shirt in the opening scene. Fueled by rage and sheer strength, he turns the fight in his favor and overpowers Jim completely. Just as Payback is about to finish Jim off, the guards finally step in, shocking both of them with electric batons. Morales orders Payback to stand down, but he refuses. So Morales moves in fast, grabbing him from behind and forcing him under control. After the fight ends, Gordon starts acting friendly toward Diego, as if they've known each other for a long time. He gives Diego a short tour of the prison and explains some of the basic rules. 1. Never make a mess, especially in shared spaces. 2. Stay out of other inmates' problems. 3. If you get caught doing anything illegal, your sentence will increase. 4. Never owe anyone anything. not a guard, not another inmate. Gordon seems like a decent prisoner who's trying to earn parole through good behavior. He advises Diego to do the same, to stay safe and out of trouble. Curious, Diego asks Gordon if the notorious prisoner Loeb is really kept here. Rumor has it that Loeb can control minds, that once he controlled a mother and forced her to murder her entire family, including her child. When Diego brings up the name, Gordon lowers his voice and subtly points toward a dark cell at the end of the corridor. "That's where Loeb is," he whispers. Then he warns Diego never to mess with him, saying that if Loeb's power-suppressing device weren't attached to his leg, he'd have already broken out and no one could have stopped him. Just then, a massive, intimidating inmate walks past them, a monster of a man built like a bodybuilder. His name is Darius, and he's Loeb's right-hand man. The moment Darius walks by, even Gordon becomes silent and tense. At the same time, we see Loeb being escorted into a dark room for his parole hearing. His face is covered by a metal cage, so he can't use facial expressions to control minds. The entire room is pitch black, and the officials question him, but he doesn't answer a single word. Loeb only wants one thing, to get out of this prison. But the officers know the truth. If Loeb is ever released, the outside world will suffer because of his powers. That's why they never intend to let him go. He realizes bitterly that he may never leave this place alive. Sometime later, Devlin visits Loeb and starts talking to him about his upcoming retirement. He admits that after all these years working in the prison, he's never gotten rich. That's why he makes Loeb a secret offer. He wants Loeb to transfer all of his hidden fortune into Devlin's account. Loeb once used his mind control powers to steal billions, and Devlin promises to help him escape the prison in exchange for that money. But Loeb refuses the offer. Devlin laughs mockingly and calls him just another powerless inmate now. He says, "Without my permission, you can't do a damn thing in here. You'd be smart to take my deal." Loeb doesn't give him a clear answer, but from the look on his face, it's obvious. He may have no choice but to accept the deal sooner or later. Meanwhile, in the prison clinic, Dr. Isabel *** is treating Payback and two other prisoners. Payback has only minor injuries, but one of the others is severely wounded. His head has been completely split open. Shockingly, thanks to his powers, the wound is healing on its own. Officer Morales walks in for her routine inspection, and a few minutes later, Diego also enters. He's working there as a cleaner for the day. As Diego quietly collects the trash, Morales walks over to him and says coldly, "You need to leave. No. And don't even think about what you saw here." Doctor. Isabel watches this and doesn't like how Morales treats him. After Morales leaves, Isabel apologizes to Diego. She tells him that not everyone in the prison is cruel. Some people still want to live a good life to make others happy. Then she starts telling Diego about a few of the patients she's been treating in the clinic. A few minutes later, several officers come in and inform Dr. Isabel that Loeb is ready for his psychological evaluation. Isabel leaves Diego behind and goes to check on Loeb. Isabel focuses her attention on Loeb. Payback regains consciousness. He silently gets up, sneaks behind her, grabs her by the throat, and lifts her into the air. Then Payback moves toward Loeb, clearly intending to kill him. But Loeb stays perfectly calm, sitting still, unfazed, even smiling slightly as he looks at Payback. He seems completely untouched by the threat. Just as Payback is about to strike, Diego rushes in from behind and holds him back long enough for a guard to arrive and subdue him. In that brief moment, Diego saves Loeb's life. But by doing so, he breaks rule #2. Never get involved in someone else's problems. After the incident, Diego becomes well known among the inmates. Many of them respect him now, especially since most already hated Payback. He advises him to use this newfound respect to his advantage, saying it could help him survive inside the prison. A little later, Darius approaches Diego and tells him that his boss, Loeb, wants to talk to him. Diego follows Darius to Loeb's cell. When he arrives, Loeb thanks him for saving his life. Then Loeb makes him an offer. He wants Diego to take Darius's place in the kitchen and help him get access to certain supplies he needs. In return, Loeb promises that when the time comes, he'll help Diego escape from the prison. Diego desperately wants to get out, but he's unsure if working with Loeb is the right choice. There's something dangerous, almost hypnotic, about the man, and Diego can't decide whether to trust him or not. Meanwhile, in the warden's office, Devlin's assistant, Felicia, warns him that making a deal with Loeb is incredibly risky. She says, "You can't trust men like him. These inmates will turn on you the first chance they get." But Devlin argues that as the warden of a prison full of supervillains, he has to be even worse than the people he controls. He smirks and tells Felicia, "If you want to be the next warden after I retire, retire, you'll need the guts to be just as ruthless as me. Then Devlin shows her 2 letters. The first is a recommendation letter, naming him as the next warden after retirement. The second is a disciplinary report that lists his misconducts, the kind of evidence that could make him completely ineligible for the position. He explains that he controls which letter gets sent to the higher authorities, and that Felicia's future depends entirely on whether she plays by his rules. The next day, after re-examining Payback, Dr. Isabel *** decides he's well enough to be discharged from the clinic. This time, though, Payback is handcuffed to the hospital bed to prevent him from attacking her again. A guard stands nearby to keep watch. Meanwhile, Gordon attends his parole hearing. He tries his best to convince the examiners that he's changed, that he's stayed out of trouble, never broken any rules, and doesn't want to be involved in violence anymore. However, one of the examiners points out that Gordon has no one left in the outside world. No family, no friends. They conclude that he's not ready to rejoin society. Hearing this, Gordon snaps. He loses control and angrily curses at the interviewer. That's exactly what the examiner was waiting for. Because of his outburst, Gordon's parole is denied, and guards escort him out of the room. Behind the dark one-way glass, it becomes clear that Devlin himself was secretly overseeing the hearing, and he never intended to let any of his inmates go free. He wanted total control. No one leaves his prison alive. Completely crushed, Gordon walks back in silence, defeated. Diego finds him later and gently asks, "Are you okay?" Gordon forces a weak smile and says, "Yeah, I'm fine." But it's obvious, he's lost all hope. A few seconds later, Darius walks up to their table and places a broken fork in front of Gordon. Gordon quickly uses the fork to unlock his peony. In fact, it was Loeb who convinced Gordon to start the riot after his parole was denied. Gordon thanks Diego for being a good friend. Then suddenly, he begins to provoke one of the guards in the cafeteria. When the guard notices Gordon's peony is missing, he immediately calls for backup. But before anyone can react, Gordon jumps onto a table, grabs an electric cable hanging from the ceiling, and absorbs the electricity. As the current flows through his body, Gordon smiles. He's finally feeling his powers again after so long. Then he fires a powerful electric bolt at a guard. Chaos erupts in the cafeteria. Inmates start running everywhere. Diego rushes over and asks Gordon what he's done, but by then, it's already too late. Gordon begins absorbing all the prison's power, causing a total facility blackout. Inside the prison, Jim and his crew take this as the signal, as planned by Loeb, to start the riot. However, just as Payback and Jim are about to fight again, both are electrocuted by guards. Loeb remains calm and relaxed in his cell, while the chaos unfolds. Gordon takes advantage of the confusion and runs toward the infirmary, hoping to hide there until he can escape. Elsewhere, Felicia updates Warden Devlin on the situation, showing him how Gordon regained his powers. Seeing this, Devlin orders a full-scale manhunt across the detention center to capture Gordon. At the infirmary, Gordon hides in the shadows, trying to plan his next move. Suddenly, he's struck hard on the head from behind. It's Officer Morales. She immediately reports to Devlin, who coldly orders her to finish Gordon off. Morales hesitates at first, but with no other choice, she obeys. Completely hopeless, Gordon offers no resistance. Morales punches him brutally. Though she didn't want to do it, she had no other option. The incident is quickly covered up. Devlin fabricates a false report claiming Gordon died after falling while trying to escape. One news anchor publicly supports Devlin's version, but another journalist suspects the truth. He knows that every time someone dies in that prison, Devlin invents lies to hide what really happened. Back inside the prison, Diego is speaking with his wife when Officer Morales suddenly ends the call. She informs him that Warden Devlin wants to see him next to Loeb's cell in the isolation wing. When Diego arrives, Devlin shows him the solitary confinement chamber, a terrifying place filled with constant thunder and electric storms capable of killing a man in seconds. Then Devlin interrogates Diego, asking what Loeb has been making him do. Diego admits that Loeb only asked him to work in the kitchen and mentioned one name, carpal tunnel. Hearing this, Devlin lets Diego go, but warns him that from now on, he must report everything Loeb says or does. If he doesn't, the consequences will be deadly. Later, Devlin talks to Loeb about the recent events. He assumed Gordon had escaped under Loeb's orders, but Loeb denies it, which enrages Devlin. He reminds Loeb of their agreement, warning that if he doesn't fulfill it before Devlin's retirement, he'll be sent to extreme solitary confinement. Loeb knows he can't escape the prison alone, so he promises to bring the money on Devlin's retirement day. In exchange, he asks for the prison's Wi-Fi password. Devlin laughs at the request and walks away. Meanwhile, Felicia, Brody, and another officer are inspecting the prison's electrical electrical system in the basement because Diego mentioned carpal tunnel. Devlin has ordered them to check all the prison tunnels. They discuss what happened with Gordon, but Felicia is clearly unhappy that he died. Brody feels the same way, yet as captain, he believes preserving the prison's image is more important. Felicia notes that the electrical system must be fully repaired before Devlin's retirement, because things could go wrong that day. The basement and electrical system are rebuilt, and when it's complete, Felicia reports to Devlin and asks about her promotion. Devlin tells her that the board is still deciding, but assures her that she has a strong chance of becoming the next warden. As Devlin's retirement day approaches, everyone in the prison grows anxious, sensing that something major could happen. Meanwhile, Diego talks to Loeb and asks what's really going on. He wants to escape but hasn't received any clear signal yet. Loeb tells him to stay calm and assures him that he will get him out, but he must remain patient until Friday, Devlin's last day on the job. The next morning, Felicia receives an email announcing Brody as the next warden. Furious, she storms into Devlin's office, berating him for breaking his promise to make her warden. Devlin calms her, saying, "This is the board's decision. There's nothing I can do." Finally, Devlin's retirement day arrives, the day Brody and Felicia were both expecting to become warden. Devlin plays his double game. He appoints Brody as warden. Felicia is clearly disappointed, so Devlin ensures she is appointed Brody's assistant by the higher authorities. After making this announcement, Devlin heads straight to Loeb's cell to collect the money. He gives Loeb a tablet and tells him to transfer the funds. But instead of wiring the money, Loeb hacks the tablet and disables all the inmates' pad devices. Loeb had already obtained the Wi-Fi password from Devlin, and ironically, Devlin had used the same password for all the prison security systems. This made it easy for Loeb to disable everything. The deactivation of the PNI devices sparks a massive riot in the prison. Now, inmates can freely use their powers, and chaos erupts everywhere. While others release poisonous gases, the prison descends into full-blown anarchy. Soon, some of the inmates began regenerating, and chaos escalated as everyone started fighting and unleashing the full extent of their powers. The guards were forced to retreat, unable to control the riot, except for Officer Morales, whose own abilities allowed her to confront the violent supervillains. She stayed back, planning a strategy to contain the inmates. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, Diego was overjoyed as his powers returned. However, Dr. Isabel Asterisk was present, helping him stay calm and maintain control over his thoughts. Felicia, realizing the severity of the situation, warned Devlin about the riot. But before he could act, he found himself trapped in Loeb's cell, another part of Loeb's master plan. The riot continued outside. Inmates attacked guards and fought among themselves. At the same time, Payback and Jim finally had a chance to settle their long-standing rivalry. With his immense strength, Jim gained the upper hand. But just as he was about to overpower Payback, another inmate distracted him, allowing Payback to escape into the prison complex. Meanwhile, Brody called Felicia for help. She instructed him to reset the electrical system in the basement to reactivate the PNI devices. As Brody moved toward the basement, Jim spotted him. Jim already harbored hatred for Brody and decided to pursue him. Upon reaching the basement, Brody began losing connection with Felicia, making it difficult to figure out which breaker to use. The situation worsened when Jim arrived, searching for Brody. Hearing movement, Brody hid and tried to escape, but Jim caught him. With no other options, Brody tried to fight back but couldn't land a single blow. Jim overpowered him and slammed him against a wall. Coincidentally, the breaker Brody needed was on the same wall. Summoning all his strength, Brody managed to free himself from Jim, then broke a nearby pipe. Gas shot into Jim's face, blinding him and causing him to collide with the generator, triggering a short circuit that killed him. Meanwhile, Warden Devlin sat in Loeb's cell, unconcerned about the chaos outside. All he cared about was how much money he would receive from his deal with Loeb. But Loeb revealed a shocking truth. He was the one who had hacked the police security system using methods other than just the Wi-Fi password, shutting down all the pad devices. The good news for Devlin was that Loeb had transferred his entire fortune into Devlin's account. Despite the chaos, Devlin still believed he was in control. Loeb had one final move. As Devlin saw Loeb, he impulsively struck him, but moments later, power returned to the prison and all PNI devices were reactivated. Inmates lost their powers, and the riot ended. Guards rushed to Loeb's cell and opened the door. Devlin then ordered that Loeb be sent to maximum solitary confinement. Meanwhile, Felicia was waiting, surprised when Devlin announced her as the next warden. Elsewhere, Payback could be seen sitting atop a pile of injured inmates he had wounded during the riot, laughing triumphantly at the destruction he had caused. A few days later, Diego visited Dr. Isabel in the clinic. He told her he was being transferred to a different prison, as the government now assigned inmates to facilities based on their powers, and Diego didn't fit the usual classification. Felicia, now the warden, removed Devlin's nameplate from the office door. The prison was now under her control. Meanwhile, Brody decided to resign, handing over his captain's position to Morales. In the final scene, Devlin arrives at the prison to retrieve Darius, who had just been released. But Devlin was no longer truly Devlin. Loeb had transferred his consciousness into Devlin's body, likely when Devlin had struck him back in the cell. This explains why Loeb had transferred all the money into Devlin's account and left Loeb's original body to rot in solitary confinement. This was also why Felicia had been appointed as the prison's warden. With that, the movie ends.